how'd you come up with your pricing model? Like, who decided years ago? It was 1%. But here's what I do know. Most of you are undercharging your smaller relationships. And your larger ones are subsidizing that. Is that fair? Is that a good business practice? Hi, this is Coach Joe Lukacs, and welcome to the Magellan Network Show. My goal inside of this communication, this show, is to share with you my nearly 30 years of coaching some of the most successful financial advisors in North America. We're going to be talking about strategies, syntaxes. We're going to be bringing guests on from time to time, and I'm going to share with you what's working now. So think of this show as sort of like a little one-on-one kind of mini coaching cast, if you like, where we're going to be going in depth from time to time on strategies to help you grow your business, get more effective, become more efficient, find balance in your time management, grow your business, and quite frankly, whatever else is going on in the world today. So before we get to today's episode, I'd love for you to do a couple things for me. Number one, make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're doing the audio, make sure that you give us a review on whether it's Spotify or Apple. We'd really appreciate that. And quite frankly, that does help. It does matter when you rate things and like things and subscribe to things. It helps us get the word out to more of the industry. And lastly, I have a very special gift for you. Go to MagellanNetwork.net, so one word, MagellanNetwork.net, and I have for you a complimentary membership, 100% gratis, where you can tap into about between 50 and 75 hours of masterclasses, forms, tools, templates, and strategies. So please go ahead and make sure you go get that claimed, smash the like button and subscribe, and please go ahead and leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. And now, let's get to this week's episode. Hi, it's your Coach Joe Lukacs, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. In this episode, we're going to have a theme. To profit or to not profit? That is the question. And the reason why I decided to spend some time and have this conversation is I was just recently referred to an advisor, 15 years in the business, independent, great human being, cares deeply about his clients, and, well, really doesn't have a lot of money. And so when we start peeling things back, what I found is that he's basically running largely a nonprofit organization. So I want to unpack that a little bit for you guys in this episode and hit upon some things that I think are critical to discuss when it comes to business, your world, serving your clients, playing the game, and so on. So how did he get there? Number one, and we've all done this, by the way, even in my world, when we start out in this game, what's the old saying? If it fogs a mirror, it's qualified, right? So a lot of times when we start out, we just want to get out there and practice our craft and help people. And we'll take on, people that we would never consider working with today, not because they're bad people, just the math's not there. We've taken them on, right? And the challenge, though, and this is kind of the big elephant in the room, is the L word, loyalty. And I've heard this in my entire career. When I sit with an advisor, one of the things I always talk about, and my area of expertise, specialty, is not going to be like what I call the heavy dose of practice management. I don't do tech stacks. I don't do workflows. That's not my jam, right? But I understand business. And I'm telling you guys right now, profits are the oxygen of your game. Okay, profits, not revenue. So can you have a multi-million-dollar top-line practice and have very low profit? Yes, I've seen it. I've seen a $4 million nonprofit once in my career where everybody's getting paid, lights were on, but the owner had no capital. I mean, he was pulling money out to take care of his family, but he was 90 days from having no money. I mean, that's the jam, right? So loyalty is something that's very interesting to me. I think a lot of advisors have this narrative in their mind that says, well, Joe, they gave me a shot when I was just starting out, and 25 years later, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. And I remember one case last year when I took on a newer client, and there was, I call it the old factory, new factory, where we had the new factory, all advisory, financial plans, the model, right? Profitable. But we had about between 20 and 30 households that were legacy, brokerage, transactional, been around for a long time, right? I'm not trying to stereotype anybody, pretend to be older people, older clients. It's like a rocket. It's like a big pebble in our shoe here. What are we doing with these 20 households, right? He goes, they're just, I really love, I really like them. They're really super loyal to us and stuff like that. And I said, well, okay. I said, I'm interested. I'm curious. You use the word loyalty. I said, are you sure it's loyalty, or is that you're cheap and you do it for free? And he didn't like that, right? And I'm going, humor me. I'm going to give you a challenge. I want to see how you'll do it. I said, look, I want you to go to them, and I said, over the next month or two, we're not going to do it, but I want you to communicate we're going to do it. And I want you to say this, hey, I've given this a lot of thought. I'm taking my entire practice to advisory only. And I'd love to continue our work together, but there will be an ongoing advisory fee. And because of your loyalty, I'm even going to do some special pricing for you. I don't like the word discount, by the way. We're going to do some special pricing for you because I want to reward that loyalty and thank you for that, right? Would you believe out of about 20 of them, 15 said, no, I don't want to do that. Out of 20, 15. And so he comes back, and I can see it in his face. And just so everybody knows, look, I'll say what I want to say. I don't want to be right sometimes, but I know I'm right sometimes. And this is one of those situations. I knew in my mind how this is going to play out. But it didn't matter what I thought. I need him to experience it, right? So I said, so how'd it go? He goes, I want to talk about it. I go, what do you mean I want to talk about it? He goes, Joe, there are people there, I literally saved their economic lives. When they start, I've done this, I went to their kids' weddings. I said, yeah, man. But do you understand that loyalty has to be a two-way street? So I didn't say to him loyalty is bad. I just said loyalty has to be a duality, not a singularity. So I just want to share with everybody that some of you have this narrative, and there's always ways to test loyalty. That's why I said, hey, we're considering doing this to this. We didn't make it hey, this is happening next month. Hey, we're moving towards this. This is what it's going to be. Just want to give you a heads up, right? And we were able to test it, and we got the result we got. So for some of you who are curious about this, that's a great way to kind of, we call float a trial balloon, get a sense of it, right? Because a lot of times what an advisor has is their own interpretation of a situation. It's your interpretation, may not be the real interpretation, right? So if you have a loyalty thing, that's in my mind how you handle it, right? From that perspective. Am I saying, we should all be mercenaries and not give back or add value? It's no. I've got clients, and I'll give you great examples. I've got clients that reserve 10 slots in their practice for pro bono work, right? Just like a lawyer would, right? Or CPA may do free tax returns for elderly people who can't afford anything else, right? I'm very altruistic. But there's ways to be altruistic, okay? And not run a nonprofit. Hi, Coach Joe Lukacs here, and I'm just breaking here for a moment just to do a couple quick reminders. Number one, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. In addition, please leave a comment or a review. Those things really, really matter. And share this episode with 3 of your colleagues inside the financial services space. And lastly, make sure that you go ahead and claim your free membership inside of Magellan Network. Now back to this week's episode. Like I said, take some slots. You could once every quarter take a Saturday and teach it, not a prospecting seminar, but you can go and do some adult financial literacy, right? Or volunteer and go to the high school and teach seniors about finance. With no business expectations. You can start a YouTube channel and write about financial literacy or record videos about financial. There's a lot of ways to give back to society, okay? Doesn't mean you have to run a nonprofit. So let's talk about profits. This is a big thing. And it's funny, again, I work with people that are pure RIA, hybrid, IBD. I still have some high-end legacy wirehouse people. And I'll say this, in all aspects, in all channels, in all situations, advisors really don't talk about profitability. We talk about top line revenue, AUM, return on ROA, return on assets, right? All that jazz. When do we talk about profits? I never got an MBA, but I've been in business my entire life. If you don't have money in your pocket at the end of the day, man, you're broke. That's just the absolute stark truth, right? And I'll say it this way. So there's a bit of a rule here that I have based on my experience. The smaller your business is going to be. So if you're going to run like a lifestyle, boutique-y, 75 to 150 household jam, right? Maybe it's yourself. Maybe it's an assistant. Maybe you have a hybrid power planner / second chair. And you have like 100, 150 slots. You can't afford to have nonprofits. It'll crush your margins. It just will, right? Now, if you have a bigger practice, you can do some different things, and I'm cool with that, right? But again, we don't want to be a nonprofit. So next question some of you are asking, well, Joe, how do you determine profitability? In the context of this video or audio, depending on how you're consuming this, here's just a simple swag way. Swag means stupid, wild, ass guess. Take all your overhead minus you, so minus your comp. Take all your overhead divided by the number of households you have, and that's your start point. Okay? In my experiences, and there's variables, somebody can work around their house. Some people can have 10,000 square feet of Class A office space, right? So before you come to me and write me, well, Joe, what's typical? How much should an advisor be spending on real estate? 0, right? To, I don't know, I got somebody, I think they pay about $50,000 a month for real estate, but, they run 75 advice. I mean, it's a big enterprise level practice. And then everything in between, right? So don't get caught up in typical, standard, doesn't exist, right? There's situations. The bottom line is get a sense of your cost to have, and don't sit there and say, well, Joe, I've got these little clients here. They don't really, I talk to them once a year, They really don't cost anything. They're taking up a slot. They cost something. Period. Okay? So let's just kind of play this out. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you have 100 households, and between your rents, staff, tech, compliance, all the things, it costs you about, before you get paid, it costs you about $250,000 to run your business, okay, on 100 households. So that tells us what? That the average household, to have a household on the books, simple math, is about $2,500. You have any clients that are paying you less than $2,000, you're losing money. Now, we didn't get to you yet. So that's calculation A. Then there's calculation B. Calculation B is usually calculation A, and then you put your comp on it, right? And most of you, again, situations are different, so I'm not going to get every iteration here, right? But here's the thing. So if you're running your own business, you're going to have your salary component and then your distribution component typically, right? So you want to take your salary component because your distribution component is really a profit, right? So you take your salary component plus all the taxes associated to that, and that, because maybe that's another 100 household. Maybe you're taking home another $200,000. So that now we go from 2,000 or 2,500, I should say. Now our cost is 4,500, right? To pay you, right? The owner. So that's our real number. Right? So anything under 5,000, basically, you're not going to get paid. Bottom line. Anything under $2,500, the firm loses money. Two different numbers, right? Why is this important? Because if you're going to grow your business, you have to reinvest in the business. And let's face it, when we say grow the business, by and large, the number one thing we think about when growing our business is people. And if you've done any kind of hiring recently, what do you understand? People are rare and expensive, right? They don't come cheap. The rock stars ain't cheap. So you've got to take that in consideration. And this is where I find there's a lot of talk about constraint theory. One of the elements in our game in terms of constraint theory is margin. If you don't have enough margin, that means you're not doing enough retained earnings / profit, which means that you cannot afford the next chair. If you cannot afford the next chair, you are stymied. Period. what happens? It's very singular. No profits means no retained earnings. No retained earnings means no resources. No retained resources mean we can't grow. Simple premise, right? From that perspective. So number one, understand your cost, understand what your clients compensate you, and then understand just where you are, like who's super profit. And so here's what you're going to find. In every case, your large clients subsidize your small clients, right? Every time. The $10, $20, $30, $40,000 a year AUM fee client is subsidizing the $250,000 non-price client. Some other observations. I've been in this industry now for 31 years. Maybe I have this really kind of dumbed down approach, but it kind of works for me. I've asked advisors, how'd you come up with your pricing model? And we all talk in the industry, everybody talks about this magical 1%, right? Who came up with, how come it's not 2% or 1.5% or 50 basis points? Who decided years ago it was 1%? And when I ask that question, I don't get an answer back because nobody knows. It's like this urban legend. Did our version of Moses come off the mountain with the tablet says, all you advisors now is 1%? I don't know. But here's what I do know. Most of you are undercharging your smaller relationships. And your larger ones are subsidizing that. Is that fair? Is that a good business practice? For some of you, I would say a lot of you, you have to look at your smaller relationships. And I'm not going to give you, here's what I think the number should be, because I think it's all personal based on a lot of different factors. But if you're charging yourself, I can tell you this, and I'm absolutely fine saying this out loud. Your smaller household, or you're charging them 1%, and you don't have a planning fee or some sort of a subscription-based financial planning, coaching, consulting fee on top of that asset fee, your large clients are subsidizing your smaller clients, and that is not a best business practice. Okay? Just not. So that's something you want to look at. Now, but Joe, I'm at a firm. They cover all my stuff. Okay. Well, they cover most of your stuff. So I'm not going to get into who gets paid what. It's all over the place. But I'm just going to say, let's just say I'm going to settle on your grid is 45%. So on $1 million book of business, hear me out, your overhead is $650,000. Plus all the unreimbursed business expense that you may have, taking clients out, having maybe an extra assistant that you need, that you're paying some, the firm's not paying some, all that goes on your P&L. So it's probably more than $650, okay? There's a cost there. Got to understand that math too. So the point being is nobody is impervious to this. It's business 101. This goes back to capitalism 101. What is the two cores? Peter Drucker said this, by the way. What are the two core functions of any business? Two core functions. You know what the answer to that is? Profits and innovation. I think as an industry, we need to listen to Mr. Drucker. And I think we do a good job innovating as an industry. I think a lot of advisors have never even given a thought to the profit side of things. If you like this episode, join our YouTube channel, forward this to a friend, a colleague in the game, and don't forget to make sure you check us out at MagellanNetwork.net. Last thing I'll say, you deserve profits. You deserve to be economically successful. Do not base your self-worth on what other people think of you. Make it about the man or woman in the mirror. All right? See you guys next week. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Hey, if any of this resonated with you, I invite you to come to MagellanNetwork.net, and we have a powerful group coaching community of like-minded advisors. Come in for a trial. You and I will have a one-on-one conversation. Let's see if I can help elevate your game both personally and professionally.